And now we're back with ad execution techniques. So there's a variety of techniques, and again, it's more like something just to have in your toolbox, to just know that there's all these different styles, these different approaches, let's say, ad execution techniques. So you have demonstration, which is a very common one to demonstrate how the brand works, comparisons, uh, straight sell, factual message. We have very much seen examples of scientific technical evidence. If you remember the Neutrogena ads that we showed, doctors put something very strong in this. Their confidence, what was it? Doctors put something extremely strong in this. Their trust, that was it. Remember the Neutrogena ad. We'll show a few in particular. I'll give you some examples of very popular ones, like the slice of life. The slice of life approach does what it says. It just shows like the a typical day or a typical moment in a consumer's life that's using the brand, and typically how the brand fits into their life and adds value to it, by either solving a problem or just, being a part of their life, It's a very popular approach, the slice of life. There's also personality, so the personality symbol or the brand personality. This is when the brand has a character that exemplifies it, that's used to promote it. It can be a cartoon character, it can be a real person acting as a particular character. But typically they're, used to gain attention and to kind of gain brand recognition. So they, associate that personality always with that brand. It can be an animal even. And animation is also a very popular approach. So I'll put these television ads on O2 class again, the slice of life ads. Here's a personality, so Green Giant. He is used, that's the brand name as well, Green Giant. So of course it's a great fit. He exemplifies the brand in terms of its naturality, right? Maybe its trustworthiness and strength. We used at Sutash this little mini cow character. It was originally just portrayed as a DJ, right? And that was it. But I asked the agency to develop it we contracted with the original artist who had drawn this, and I asked them to kind of expand the roles that this character can play to make it fit, more of a lifestyle of the children that we're targeting Hoop Trick toward. So, active life, there he is on a snowboard, dunking, he's got the H on his back for Hoop Trick. There he is on a skateboard, rollerblades, yo-yo, and, handing you some hoop tricks, right? So that's the kind of personality symbol. There we've got these kids being used in the advertising, the Bumix kids, but they changed this now, they're using a kind of a cow as the personality symbol. Here, Aflac, this is the brand, it's called Aflac. It's an insurance company, okay, Aflac. And apparently in the agency and the marketing team, they were sitting around trying to come up with some strategy for advertisements. And this is the story I heard. I don't know if it's true, but the CEO just said, Aflac, it sounds like a duck quacking. And the creative team picked up on that. So they made it so that they used this very famous actor with a very distinctive voice. I forget his name. He was actually kicked out after maybe a decade of working with them because he did something controversial. I can't remember that either, but he voiced this duck. It was like Aflac, sounds like a duck quacking, and it was very, very, very successful because it took people's attention and it was used as incorporated into their advertising. Um, for every TV ad they did, they just used this duck. He would kind of do silly things and say Affleck. Okay, so animation is a very common approach, and it's very useful for certain situations. Like here, equilactin is a medicine that's used to treat irritable bowel syndrome, right? And this is not something really that's very pleasant or comfortable to talk about on television. People don't want to hear about ishal, diarrhea, or kabuzlik, constipation. It's not a very nice word, nice words to hear. So they kind of did a very clever thing, I thought, was to use a more symbolic portrayal with animation to kind of soften the discussion, but at the same time, get the message across. So the man says, if you're like me with an irritable bowel, stressful days can mean diarrhea one day. So he's kind of portrayed as a rabbit. I don't know if you can see that. And constipation another, and he's portrayed as a turtle. Fast moving, slow moving, get it? You see, if there's too much water in the intestines, you have diarrhea. Not enough, constipation. Now there's new equilactin, a single medicine for diarrhea or constipation. Equilactin tablets help restore the proper water balance to relieve both problems. So with an irritable bowel, when stressful days mean diarrhea or constipation, equilactin helps me feel like a human being again. And note again that this is a storyboard, right? This is not the actual TV ad, of course, but the storyboarded ad, which shows the voiceover, right, and the images, and typically you would have the sound effects as well. So here's some implementation notes to, I think, summarize some of the things we've talked about, but actually, no, this is more or less going in a slightly different direction too. That when it comes time to get the creative approach, the creatives you're working with, the ad agency, what's necessary when you're implementing it? Well, first get several budgets and inspect them carefully because they'll give you the scripts, and then you have to decide on the production team, the director, and you have to go over them carefully. We'll go over a few budgets, and I'll show you. Maybe I won't show them online, but just be aware that the budgets can hide. Let me just go back. That the budgets, if you get 3 different budgets from different production teams and different directors, they often try to slip in higher costs here and there. So when you inspect the budgets, you can see, you can ask questions like, well, why is this sound system cost $25,000? This sound system costs $75,000. Why is that? Or why is the shooting over 5 days in this budget? Why is it only over 3 days in this budget? So it's your chance to kind of push down the costs because typically they'll try to inflate them. So in implementing, once you've gotten the creative solutions, you have to kind of make sure you get several budgets and inspect them. You want to try to pre-test as much as possible, but this requires time and money. So again, if you're going after a large, national ad campaign and the media billing, the media is the major portion of that ad spend. The money that you're spending on advertising probably, it's a decision you need to make, but probably 80 to 90% of it is going to be spent on, or more is going to be spent on media. So, a national ad campaign can be in the millions of dollars. It's probably worth your while to pre-test the ads and the approach to make sure you're doing something correct. You need to set benchmarks before the campaign so you can compare after. Do some pre-testing to establish the benchmarks of awareness, of liking, of correct branding, of against your competitors. Uh, the types of image attributes you want, the brand equity associations you have and you want. And then after you have the campaign, based on your objectives, of course, based on the objectives that you set, then you can compare afterward to see if it's working as you want it to be working. If you want to continue with that ad and maybe put more, media budget behind it, right? If it's doing well, maybe you want to continue with it. If it's doing poorly, you need to change something. Speaking of the media buys, well, you need to make them well before the campaign, begins. Sometimes the media that you would like to use is not available. Maybe you want to do certain magazines, front covers, back covers. These disappear relatively quickly. The costs of advertising, they go up the closer it is to the day you want to do it. It's just like airplane seats, right? Or hotels. The sooner you reserve, the better prices you get. So if you know you're going to want your campaign to be in market 6 months from now, and it takes time to get the creative approach done and the production, to make the production correct, to do the right production takes time. Well, buy the media before the campaign, well before the campaign, so you plan for it and get better available spots and good pricing. You also need to coordinate all the other P's, right? Distribution in particular, in advance of the campaign. You got to notify the sales team, give them maybe PowerPoint presentations to share um, with their accounts. If you've got, for example, retailers or chains that they're dealing with or distributors, tell them what's going on so that they can get extra shelf facings. They can get, extra Tanzim Tessier, extra, you know, points of presentation, maybe end aisle displays or extra pool displays, for your product, because that will pay off much better if you're well distributed and you've got lots of in-market support. You've got lots of extra shelf facings, lots of extra products being shown. The effect of your advertising is going to have a much higher return on investment. You've also got to coordinate with production, right? Your internal team, because if you're going to do a big ad campaign in a few months, and it should make your sales go, higher and sometimes dramatically, and you've got to have had planned for it. Your production team needs to get enough raw materials or, inputs to the production process. You're coordinating with retail partners. All these other, your pricing. You make sure that if you want to do a discount, maybe don't do it during the ad campaign. Maybe it's not the time. Don't do a bonus pack or on pack, during the campaign. So, make sure all the other P's are in place. The product quality is up to speed. You don't want to put a poor product on the market, make a big ad campaign where everybody goes out and buys a poor product. That would kill you. And finally, enjoy the process, take some pictures, etc. When you're doing this now, after you've got the creative outputs and you start production, especially ad campaigns like television ads are lots of fun. You're on site, you're witnessing all this stuff behind the scenes. It's a lot of fun. Like here, this was me on my first ad campaign. This Sutashin Sura Nerde, and the concept was that there's these spies going onto the Sutash farm to try to understand what's the secret of Sutash, So the Sutash farm, you got these guys dressed in a cow suit, lots of fun. It's kind of a funny thing. And here we are on Badat Jadesi with this German director, I forget his name, and yeah, you see the women up in the top in the window. Those were our principal actresses. And we did this at a shoe store. This was, for Jovita, I think, Jovita drink, Jovita Ichijek. And this was during the Chalkala campaign, Levent Semerji, and this was in Antalya. Okay, so we'll see you next time.